Hi everyone, I'm Libby. Welcome back to Liberatory Love. In this video, I'm going to talk about entering our bitch era. And it feels so good to say that. It feels like I have literally been waiting 30 years to say that, but there's something that I needed in myself to be able to say that. I needed to know for me that I was locked in with the love that I was looking for. I needed to know for me that my bitch era meant, not that I even had that phrase, but that bitch era meant that I was protecting something that is vital to me and not pushing people out. And can you ever exactly know that? I'm going to argue no, but you can give yourself a little test, and it's about beginning to get in touch with your inner fire. The best way that I have begun to identify that journey is flat out being as vulnerable as I possibly can with certain people and witnessing how they respond. Now, I know this is not the path to go for everyone, but I'm just going to put it out there. It is the most freeing possible thing. There's so many reasons to guard our hearts, or actually, I'm not going to pretend there's so many reasons. We're very well practiced at guarding our hearts. And so when we're guarding our heart and someone's guarding their heart, what we get is this, well, I can't really tell. Was that me? Was that them? What's going on here? When you put all your cards on the table, when you put your full vulnerability on the table and you witness it getting rejected, that is when it becomes so freeing to say, actually, not everybody needs or deserves this. And I sometimes have to roll all this back because I have to remember I'm an unconventional person anyway, and I'm a person who gets in full-on conversations with strangers on plane rides and in car rides and Ubers and whatnot. But I really think that my journey with vulnerability is special and fun, and it's something that I would love to inform this entry point, this portal into your bitch era. There's a beautiful quote that I heard last week, which is that a queen is somebody who is a people's person, but she gets to hold her boundaries rigidly in order to protect that. And I grew up in a home that, bless that wonderful place, had so much love and so much openness and had 12 children in it. And so I grew up with a rotating door and endless people coming through that door. And in this last week, I actually was acquainted with that by having some of my older siblings back in town who decided to actually physically stay in the house with us, even though they very well could get other space. There's a very childhood feeling to that. It's special. I actually like getting raised in this age, in this era, with that level of love. I am who I am because of my siblings. I will always be somebody who points to and uplifts the power of family, the power of love. And being raised in a giant family, being raised in a Christian household, introduced me to a way of being that said that implicitly that we always have to be in the room at the same time. We always have to know everyone else's business, and we always need to be sharing about what is on our minds. And again, I'm very blessed to have grown up in a home where people did that at all. And I've had to now go the opposite way to learn that actually leaving a room, drawing a boundary, saying no, and choosing your life are not the opposite of love. They're not the opposite of vulnerability, and they're not the opposite of depth. So this video was meant to be about my creative work, creative emergence. But I really feel that entering our bitch era is the even more appropriate way to say this, because emergence is about being open to surprise. It's about being available for shifts. It's about being ready and like bags packed, like the door that you've been wanting to go through, the car you've been wanting to get in shows up and you can actually go. And the thing is that if you're not in your bitch era yet, you can't take that car ride. You can't walk through that door. Already in life, there's 1,000 reasons why we can't always walk through the door that we want to, and we can't always get in the car that we want to. But there's nothing worse than seeing that car pull up or seeing that door open and being so desperate and so close to doing it, but not doing it because we feel like we have to. be XYZ. And as a woman who has taken 30 years to get here, and I know from knowing other women that for some of us it takes much longer. For some of us, it takes much less, but I'm going to speak it right now because it took me the time that it has taken me, and there's people on both sides. So I feel freaking obligated now to voice it. Whatever it is that you think you have to stay for, evaluate it. Whatever it is you think you are obligated to, evaluate it. Whatever story it is that people around you are pulling you into, evaluate it. You were given a heart, you were given a gut, you were given a mind, you were given a spirit, you were given soul, you were given angels. I am fearless to actually, I was going to use the F word, but I'll try to keep it a little more child appropriate. I am fearless to speak soul and angels because that is another thing that I am not willing to keep walking through the world pretending don't exist. That's a make-believe. And I live in a world, I get that, where that makes me inherently unscientific. But that's a choice. That paradigm itself, that talking about angels makes you unscientific, is also a choice. And we are here. Bitch era is about slicing through these superficial paradigms, these superficial options that have been given to us. So, welcome to your bitch era and welcome to Creative Emergence. And this is not a video just for women. This is not at all a video just for women because bless the hearts of men everywhere who are making choices because of the pressure that a woman is putting them on them and because of the pressure that other women are putting on them about their relationship to women. So, entering our bitch era means, from my vantage point, commitment to how radically different we are and commitment to how radically connected we are. And when we can start to sit in that tension, it's only there that we will start to guiltlessly walk away and say no. I also am in my Saturn return right now, and things are blowing up left and right around me. So I acknowledge I might come back to this in a couple of years and be able to offer some insight on how to do this more delicately or more kindly. But I can say now that I am literally being magnetized by a part of me that is like, get the fuck out of here. That I already waited way too long. And the energy that I'm doing it from now is very important because for the last decade, I have timidly walked these lines of, I might be questioning things. I'm not doing relationships the way everybody else said. I believe this when everyone else is saying that all the time, doubting myself against what paradigm? There's complexities here that are beyond putting on a face. I am not here to say, shut people out. I'm not here to say, you have everything you need. You don't. You are connected to an entire body that literally contains things. You're connected to a nature and a natural being that contains air and food and water, and you live in social systems. You don't exist independent of all of that. And you get to choose your relationship to it. And we collectively get to choose our relationship to it. And I have so much empathy, especially for people who are going through mental health issues through this time, because it doesn't feel as easy to be in a bitch era when you really feel like I need the people around me. That can be through mental health issues. It can be through attachment issues. It can be through trauma. But when I say welcome your bitch era, I mean welcome your demand and your claim for the support that you need. Welcome that the people around you are not going to understand the journey that you're on, and that's okay. Welcome that you get to call in every level of support that you possibly need, and you get to let this journey be about you and God, you and your soul, you and your heart, and that it will continue to open. this bitch era will become the brightest, most full, most alive experience of life you have ever felt. And I speak that as someone who is just 2 years in, but like really a couple months in. Part of my bitch era is that I don't have to go and edit this right now because this is for me. So thank you if you're watching, and if you're not liking the unedited parts, I promise you there's a lot of less emotionally uh fresh but beautifully edited videos on the internet for you. Okay. So let's go into the relationship of creative emergence and your bitch era. And I'm so grateful to be coaching a wonderful woman and creator while I do this who reflects specifically on the themes of unleashing our feminine. So coaching her alone just electrifies me and lights me up. And it's so obvious that our work is going to come hand in hand. Right now, we're operating in paradigms that do not serve our well-being. So to get into a life and a vibe and an energy and a pace and a way of being that truly starts to enrich our soul, we have to step out of certain paradigms and step into others. And with that, we also experience typically a whole array of other people's ideas and thoughts about that switch, and then ideas and thoughts about our life once we are in a different paradigm. So you can switch out from Christianity to New Age, and you can shift from science to spirituality, and you can go from a more liberal arts framework to a more technological framework. But as somebody who has moved around in these spaces, and I like to think of it in multi-dimensions, I witness how the same confines exist over and over and over in people telling you exactly how they think that you should behave, exactly how it should be done. And so my work with creative emergence is really about being in your bitch era because there isn't anyone here who can guide you. It is about you recognizing your own guidance system, which is this being, which is vulnerable AF. But no one, no lover, no woman, no man, no person is going to be able to come and tell you, here's a map, here's the instructions, here's how it's done. And the most erotic, opening, delicious, sexy, intimacy and attraction is going to come when more of us can step into this bitch era. And I'm talking on a friend level, a partner level, a business partner level. And this shit is scary. Thank God. Thank God. 3 months ago, I made a video saying, let it be dangerous. And what's beautiful is my soul's always guiding me. And it's so nice when I speak things and I don't even fully know what I mean. And then I start living it and I'm like, oh, I know that part of me said that, but I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good off the bat, but it does feel amazing down the road. And I'm really not willing to be in any kind of relationship right now, aside from family and people who fall very much on that line of like, I absolutely identify with your vulnerability based on the roots we share. But I do not owe you something because we as a collective are working through this. And I can have gratitude for how you raised me. I can have gratitude for how you have supported me in challenging times if you happen to be someone who's blessed with a family like that. And also, all of us are out here navigating this thing. And actually, your last name, your culture, your ethnicity, your religion no longer gives you the capacity to judge the choices that I am making because I have to navigate this world with everybody else. And I really want to emphasize this because I've been given a gift having a huge family. And that gift is really believing and perceiving all of their thoughts and ideas about me and having so many versions of that. And a really beautiful thing about losing one of them as well, I usually talk about suicide and loss as a grieving standpoint. But for a moment, let's look at the beauty of having a man down in a family of 12. The beauty there is you have to look at yourself. The beauty is a part of your brain. Not everyone views it like this, but for me as a family, I view us as a family system. And a part of that system, dying, forces you to reevaluate what is going on. And what happens when you actually lose part of that system, and then you also experience how everyone else is dealing with that, is you start to realize that, holy shit, all of us are kids here, including the parents. And it's not to say wisdom doesn't exist. And it's not to say history doesn't exist. And it's not to say we're not learning from the past. And it's not to say we're not learning from each other. But it is to say they are not having to navigate this body the way I have to navigate this body. This whole thing is not having to navigate this moment in the way that I'm having to navigate it. And I have to grapple with this all the time as someone who's now a middle-aged person in this family. When you put the lineup with the nieces and nephews up until me, I'm old now. And I have to own I don't have everything. I don't have all the answers. Not that I ever thought I did, but it can be easy to think I know more. Absolutely not. I have no idea what it's like to be 17 right now. I have no idea what it's like to be 18 right now. I have no idea what it's like to be 7 and 10 and 15. So I've been given a very unique situation to learn within. And it's that situation that allows me to walk through the world with the level of courage that I have, because I witness these cats are running. They can feel my energy. I witnessed loss and also confusion in a space where answers do not exist. And it has actually taken me 5 years to claim this bitch era, because I've been vulnerable. I've needed support, and I'm learning from others. I'm seeking help. I've thought of it more as a gentle, like, let myself be carried and let myself be cared for. And like, it is there is a time that we need that. And thank goodness for everyone who is caring and loving and putting forth a love energy into the world for those of us who are the most hurting. But the other side of that is when we look at the collective suffering, which none of us have answers for as single beings in this 8+ billion, we actually get to approach it from a lens of our highest, deepest, widest, richest abundance. And if we are belittling ourselves in any way in order to try to reduce the suffering of another, it's my belief, I am working on the both and here of being in support of our collective, but it's my belief that we are actually doing so from a reduced place in us in a way that's also going to harm them. I did not come here to be a mother in the way that the society has created the role of mother. I contain mother. I am mother. I'm connected to divine mother. There's no disconnect between me and mother. And it's through that lens that I can reject the way that that role has been constructed here in this society. And I just want to welcome people who find themselves in a place of being, because I work here at Liberatory Love on the intersection of religion, spirituality, and sexuality. I want to welcome people who find themselves at this study of spirit, study of source, who want to stay loving, who want to stay kind, who want to create peace in the world, and invite inquiry. that you're not getting there without your bitch. You're not getting there without the one who can draw rigid boundaries around the richness of who you are, and that those boundaries are not the opposite of love, and they're not the opposite of connection, and they're not the opposite of peace. And the right people are going to be able to work with you on them. The right people are going to be able to come up against you and say like, whoa, you have work to do. That's a deeper quality of work. But when you're in your bitch era, you're going to have the space to do that work. When you haven't hit your bitch era, you don't even have the space to do that work because you're spending, I'll speak for myself, you're spending so much time trying to be nice, trying to be peaceful, trying to make things better. So that when someone actually does give you feedback, you're so fucking fragile, you can't even receive it. It crumbles your entire fucking building of self. And you're not a building, you're a world. But you never actually even conceptualize yourself as a world because you were so busy being on the worst of fucking human and on the best of fucking house. And you're neither. You're a world, you're a galaxy. You are infinite and you cannot be contained. I've paused throughout this video multiple times to consider, like, should I stop this and should I just make a smaller video? And the answer is I can't. I can't because I needed somebody to tell me this too badly. I can't because I have several decades more, most likely, inshallah, God forbid, because I cannot account for how this world decides to treat me. But I most likely have several more decades. And even though I'm somebody who feels like I was racing to push past certain boundaries, it's too long. I'm not waiting another decade. I'm not waiting another day. I'm not waiting another minute. The paradigms that many of us are operating from, trying so hard not to offend each other in, are not producing life. They're not producing aliveness. They're not producing juice. And we are literally saying no. We're saying no to our deepest longings over our belief of what somebody else thinks is good, conscious, beautiful, awakened, sexy, pretty, or enough. And we have to be able to evaluate if that standard has anything to do with us. And that is the sound of my own soul, because no one has been able to say it to me like that. There's been some awesome, awesome women who've helped pull it out, but no one has been able to quite help me, who's like, but Jesus, but God, but source, but love. I need to be loving. And so I just want to speak to Libby for a minute, and to anyone else who might be in this. God is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Goodness is everywhere. Light is everywhere. And it is especially in you. And that you might be giving up pieces and parts of yourself every single day in the name of things that have no interest in you is heartbreaking. It's time to reclaim your heart. Your bitch era is about your heart. Your bitch era is about piecing back together the heart that you came to this planet to live from. The bitch era is the acknowledgement. There's not a single religion, spiritual practice, spiritual community, relationship, or friendship who knows what this blasting, fiery heart of yours has to say or do here. And you have permission to walk away from things that aren't uplifting that. Someone had to walk away from me right now who is so pure and loving in order for me to recognize this is pure. This is mine. This is good. This is enough. This is a mess. This is beautiful. And it doesn't mean I'm not working on it. It doesn't mean I'm not trying to become a more enjoyable thing for people to be around. But I also didn't come here to make other people feel good. I came here to find God. I came here to find my heart, which, yes, is in relationship, but it's also has to be in my own guidance system, because there's so much off balance in the world right now that so often when we're coming into a relationship, there's just so much noise and things that are continually off balance, that we're two people on a tightrope trying to get balanced together, holding on to each other. What I wish that I knew, that I'm still coming into every day, is that I get to be angry. I wish that someone told me sooner that my anger is so delicious and so raw and so powerful and so life-giving. I wish that somebody told me, but I don't, because I'm realizing now that my no's are so welcome, and that I don't have to wait until I know the yes to say the no. I've been saying a mantra over the last 3 to 4 months, which is that my no's are guiding me. Because for me, as someone coming from love and care and tenderness, and my perception of what a more lovely woman is, for me, going from that into this phase of no's has been excruciating. Like, I hate it in one level. And the hardest part was that my no's, they didn't involve knowing what's on the other side. These no's are taken in faith. These no's are, I'm getting the fuck out of here. These no's are the greatest divorce. I'm going through the great divorce myself. The Great Divorce, which is a book from C.S. Lewis about the choice to come home, and people saying, I don't want to. That's what I'm in now with myself. And it's so good. I'm so grateful. There's all these parts of me that are like, I don't want to go, like, I don't want to. I really like it here. I really like what other people have to say, and I really like what other people are doing. I really like being accepted, and I really like these things that feel so comforting to me. And I've had to come alongside each of them and say, like, I hear you. I totally hear you, and I get you, and I don't even need all of you to be here. But thank God for a woman in my life right now, Laura, who's offered me this phrase, which is that only 51% have to be ready. I don't even know if that's how she's putting it past me, but it's how I'm understanding it. 50% of you just needs to be able to face the fear. And when I look back at my 20s, that's something I've been great at. I've been great at being able to say I'm scared and going. I can picture all these moments when I had moved to San Francisco and I put my hand on a door and I was like, I don't even want to walk in this basement. And I was just like, all you have to do is walk down. That sounds weird and creepy, but it was a tech meetup. Like, I would oftentimes do that. Just like, if I can do the pause before and then just do a little bit, then, we can always leave. We can always go. You can always leave after. Excuse me. My throat's scared of me saying all this. And what happens when you're walking by faith for so long is you're just like, I literally don't know. Like, it feels like I'm free falling. It feels like I'm free falling. It feels like I'm free falling. And so much of my 20s, like, I have to make this video for me and for younger women, because so much of my 20s was like, am I gonna be okay? Where's okay? Where's the floor? I kept asking, where's the floor? Where's the floor? Where's the floor? And now I fucking know that I'm flying. And one more thing I want to add to this is I've been sober for most of these years, and I'll probably speak more to that later, but my sobriety has been my greatest gift. And there's so many reasons people are not sober, so I don't share that to shame anyone. But just to say that I was blessed with getting introduced via the Baha'i faith to a framework of sobriety, which is also carried out in the religion of Islam. And that experience of like choosing to actually go down this path of sobriety has been so revelatory. I actually felt like so many parts of myself as a child came back, even though I'd only been drinking for about 2 or 3 years. Those 2 or 3 years, I lost a lot in there. And it's not loss, it's just emptiness. It's an emptiness. And as I speak this video and I think about how I'm going to engage with people in life, sometimes I still have a nervousness, like in the same way when I would go put my hand on the door, I would still feel nervous, but I would go, and I feel nervous now. I feel nervous being in my bitch era, especially given that I'm going to say and talk about a lot that isn't resonant for a lot of people. And that is hard for me. But I only need 51%. And what I learned through my 20s, what's nice about learning is you get to double and triple and it's compounding. What I learned from my 20s and 30s and saying yes to fear is that, like, if I could go from feeling for a decade like I was free falling to realize I am flying, that jumping off that cliff or doing that jump that was scary, it wasn't about just getting to the next thing. It was actually about starting to fly. Do I need to wait an entire decade now to feel okay about saying fuck no to majority of the things that have educated me? Like, the process of doing that is scary, but I'm going to speak why it's so important. I've had a rare experience of getting to learn in many different places. I've gotten to learn from multiple religions, multiple spiritual practices, multiple coaching programs. I've gotten to learn through my own body, through multiple experiences with my body. I've gotten to learn through my own mental health and my own mind. I've gotten to learn through multiple therapists and multiple coaches and multiple teachers. I've gone to study in university. I've gone to study outside of it. I've gone to study in the world. I've gone to study in the school of life. And what I can say from that is that we are going to need, those of us who want to fly, we're going to need to very, very quickly say no in situations that are not serving us, because all of us are having to learn like this. There's no such thing. If your teacher, if anyone you've allowed to be a mentor or a mentor or a teacher in your life is not somebody who's actively learning, if they're sitting behind a desk in some place, and even me, I'm recording these videos from a home, but I'm actively having to build the financial system that I'm operating on, and I'm actively shifting the way that I do relationships, and I'm actively working on myself and working on my body. Like, if they are not actively working on themselves, their model is not going to work for that much longer for you. And I say this as someone who also studies religion and observes that there is such thing as timeless models. But at the same time, the frequency, the pace at which the interrelation of social systems, psychology, spirituality, our politics, our economics, our technology, and all their intersection is shifting is such that, like, if you actually want to be in a state that's learning, you're going to have to be learning quickly and letting people go quickly. And we're going to have to be able to trust each other through that. And somebody who's not in their bitch era, which I have not been for many times, so I can speak this right now, we cling to people because we're also scared and we don't want to lose. And if you are around somebody right now, thank you to the person who's like, fuck no, I can't deal with you, and I'm so offended and sad. Because if that person didn't do that to me, I would not realize the toxicity of what I'm in right now. I've seen it. I've been watching it come over and over. But I've needed it happening in friendship, happening in love, happening in religion, happening in spirituality, happening in studying, to be able to say, I'm in scarcity. I'm in scarcity. I believe that this is the only teacher I'm going to find. This is the only lover I'm going to find. And we live in an era where a lot of things are still offered to us through that lens. This is the only soulmate that you're going to find. This is the only like career, job, purpose that you're going to have. This is the only like right way to be in pursuit of truth, or even what truth is. And if I could go back, what I would tell this woman in her 20s is like, you're doing amazing. Keep questioning, and question at double and triple and 5 times the rate. Because what I would do is I would question, and then I would go back, question and go back, question and go back, question and go back. I spent so much time doubting the fact that I was questioning everything, when now that I'm here and I can actually see from this perspective how little people know, my only wish is that I would have stuck with my questions faster and longer. I actually feel there's so much that's about to open in my life, but I actually feel regret and sadness over the amount of time that I've spent doubting myself. And I really feel the obligation to speak this and record this, because I'm going to need this reminder later, but also to other people. Because one of the biggest things I've learned from getting to learn from elders is, you know, they have a specific kind of pain. It's the pain of regret. And we get to learn from that. Regret is so unique to the fact that we're waking up to the limited number of days we have here. And the first way to wake up to the limited number of days is to be in humility that you do not choose your number of days. Whether or not you call that God, there is, if you're not walking through life with a humility that you didn't choose that part, then like, let's start with that ingredient. But the second one is realizing that we live in the time-space paradox. I say paradox because in some ways, time and space are infinite. But in some ways, there's this being who expires. This thing that came here to experience. What is life? What is being? What adventure am I here for? And the way that whole journey is getting posed for some odd reason is as if there's a rule book. And the fact that we live in an economic system that forces you to work, to live, to eat, to have healthcare, that's not a rule book. That's a structure that exists in the same way that if we lived on another planet and they said, you have to wake up every morning and dance for 3 hours or else you're not going to get access to a doctor, you would dance every morning and it would affect you. But that still wouldn't be the rule book. That would be the condition that you were born into. There's conditions we are born into. But this brain, this intelligence was created in order to question those conditions. I don't need to sit here and say was created. It is part of the creation. It is part of the questioning of the conditions. And those conditions are upheld through our beliefs. They're upheld through our energetics. So we get to question our beliefs. We get to question our thoughts. We get to question our energetics. And the part of me that has empathy for my younger self and has empathy for others is part of that regret, part of that not knowing, part of that I only have a limited time here is if I only have a limited time, I want to be loved. You know, I want tenderness. And so I just want to speak to that for a minute because I had a friend say, we're all trying to get back to the womb. I'm not trying to get back to the womb. I'm not. And I love that friend. But if you're trying to get back to the womb right now, it's most likely because you need the tenderness. Have the tenderness. Like let's try to create more spaces that allow that womb and gestation process to exist. Let's create more spaces where for 9 months it's fucking fine to break the fuck down and need help and need love and need tenderness and need care. But don't stay there. Don't stay there, because you came here to play. And what's hard for me to witness in the healing space, and I know that I was born with extraordinary energy, so I do not like to speak this toward everybody, but I'm going to speak it to people who feel that they have a lot of energy and a lot to do here. Don't stay in the gestation. The baby comes out of the womb. It needs to be in people's arms. It needs to be cared for, but it also needs to actually walk and live and create. And it's my understanding that we are in an evolutionary process. And part of that evolutionary process is actually owning, claiming our responsibility to the great adventure of life, which involves the building of peace on earth. It involves the protection of the good of the whole. It involves the nobility of all beings, of all things. And we have so much ideology being put at us, being indoctrinated, that we're being indoctrinated with, in service of the paradigms and the systems that do not serve the good of the whole. So it's challenging. And then you have to be able to, then you go walk into a classroom and a school and your workplace and your dinner table. And if you speak something that's a little bit utopian sounding, you're seen as like an idealist. So even now, as I prepare to go home and see my family, it's like, oh, I love my family, but like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to start to get off of one railroad track and get on another. But as I said in another recent video, we're not just getting off of railroad tracks. We're getting off of them, period. We're not getting off of one and onto another. We're getting off, period. So the system, when it's getting tired and exhausted and like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. It's too hard. What's happening at that moment, from my understanding right now in the year 2025, after a decade of starting to play with this, is that exhaustion, that fear, that tightness for me right now, as I speak it, it's the tightness in my belly. But thankfully, I know now that my belly is my solar plexus, it's my center of power. So I'm not as afraid of it. Is that part of our being is going like, it's so much work. It's like, Libby, you're asking me to pack up the whole house and move. I don't want to do that. You're asking me to say no to everything. You're asking me to walk away from everything fun. You're asking me to like lose all ease. You're asking me to no longer have, any peace of mind. And what I would say is, baby girl, we're not going any place that you thought we were going. We're not following that train track because you don't want to go there. And I'm also not putting you on another train, so don't even bother packing. We're actually leaving it all behind. All of it. Which means as many days as you want to enjoy a cup of coffee, it's okay. As many days as you want to go on a date, it's all right. As many days as you want to, do, like, we're not always going to get these days, so savor them. If there's things you want to enjoy right now in this moment and you have access, enjoy them. I'm just letting you know we're off that train, okay? We've actually 51% plus of this consciousness has woken up. And there's nowhere left to go. There's no back. No political campaigns about back. No political campaigns, period, actually, right now, are guiding you. But I promise that there is a guidance system in here. And if you can let go of every moment to moment experience, this heart is going to be able to tune you into that new track that doesn't quite fit on any of the paths that you're thinking about. And I know that doesn't feel safe for you right now. I know that you really want to know that everyone around you is going to be safe and everyone around you is going to be good. But the reality is they have to choose this too. And there's some people, if they're watching this video, they might have gotten that point like straight away, like age 5, age 10, people who've gone through more traumatic experiences with awful people earlier in life, I think have gotten this side a little bit faster. For me, it's taken me a long time. It's taken me 30 years actually, and it's probably going to keep taking me longer. But they have to choose. That person, they have to choose themselves. You cannot make somebody get off their track. And they're having their own adventure. It's all good. Doesn't mean we're not going to care about each other. Doesn't mean we're not going to watch out for each other. But we're not going to be begging people. We're not going to be on our knees for people, asking them to get off the track that they're on. They're on their own journey, and you have absolutely no idea where their journey is taking them. But you feel this in your belly. You feel this knowing that this thing is not working for you. Listen, at the very least, be curious about it. At the very least, love it. At the very least, find some worship music or some piano music or some ethereal music or whatever lights you up, but something that actually will let you get a little bit outside of the body that's tight, tight, tight around this, and feel the thing a layer beneath that, a layer beneath that, a layer beneath that. Because where we're going has no guidebook. Where we're going has no map. And to say no to so much, you're going to need the bitch in you. What this world calls a bitch. In reality, what you're going to be doing is listening to this system. It's just that this system is not in submission to anyone or anything that does not have its heart accounted for. So it's going to take some courage. It's going to take some listening. It's going to take some tuning in. It's going to take some feeling uncomfortable. It's going to take some people uncomfortable with you. It's going to take you uncomfortable with you. It's going to take you having to listen to all the different voices inside of you who have mixed ideas about this. But ultimately, there is an authority in here who is guiding. And that is the creative emergence side. That is recognizing that the part of you who has another way, its pattern is the spiral. The part of you who knows a way, who wants a map, is looking for steps. But the part of you who is infinite and looking to manifest itself here in an infinite way, because we're no longer in an era of just the spiritual side is out there. This is an era of the spiritual wants to manifest here in this physical. That part's pattern is a spiral. And what we get with a spiral is that the loops could be tight, like a curl, or it could be wide, and one's not right or wrong. But maybe you're starting more in a coil and you're nervous and you're saying we're just going to do a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. But as you start to lean into it and lean back and you feel that it's carrying you and you can trust it, it starts making spirals like this. And you can start getting wider or deeper or going in another direction. You can actually start to move with it. It's a dance of life. Trust what is calling you. Lean back into it. Lean back. Sink down. Come deeper, and you will actually go higher. Release what is not yours. And keep your vision on the parts that have no words. Keep your vision on the parts that nobody gets. Keep your visions on the parts that you're like, is this true? Is this possible? You did not come here for the possible. Can't wait to watch this video in a decade, in multiple decades, because for me, when I lean back, there's stages and plays and music venues and artfulness and connection and creativity all around the world. And with that, there's also feeling a lot deeply. And that also is the part that can be very scary, is trying to avoid feelings. But the thing is, you're going to feel no matter what. You're not going to be able to avoid death. You're not going to be able to avoid oppression, injustice. You're not going to be able to avoid hurt. You're not going to be able to avoid heartbreak. You're not going to be able to avoid imperfection, jealousy, insecurity, aging, or death, or sickness. So if you can't avoid any of those, and you're going to have to feel all of them anyway, you might as well play full out. You might as well test the waters anyway. You might as well come out of the womb. You might as well see what happens when this being actually stretches out. You might as well picture this body as just this freaking big and the soul around it is infinite. And you might as well learn now that it has nothing to do with what anyone sees. But if you do like a show, put on a show. Put on some red lipstick. The times ahead are not easy. 2025 to 2035, whew, that's a time to be chosen. That's a time to choose to be alive. Like this year, when we look back historically on what was happening politically, there's very dramatic decisions being made. And let's be a part of the decision makers. Let's be a part of the stewards. Let's be a part of the creators. Let's give up the stories that are not ours. Let's remember we do not fit into the boxes that we've been given. The social conditions we are born into and the paradigms that inform them are allowed to be released. You get to say no to everyone out there and to everyone in here if they don't have your best interests and your heart and your fire and your flame centered. Be critical. Be caring. Be kind. Be compassionate. Most of all, be committed to the fun. There is a fun within all of this. There's magic and miracles that want to actually come through and welcome us. And it is through trusting and leaning into the knowing that more will get to come through in our lives. It's not easy, but it gets to be something so different than what we think it is.